Follow what excites you, keep learning, keep creating, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Rani Asra Gidwani, thank you for joining me here on the Go with Manav. For those that do not know you, could you please tell them a bit more about yourself?
First of all, I'm delighted, Manav, to be on your podcast. Thank you for having me. I'm Rani Asra
Of course.
Gidwani, the very first Bollywood dance teacher in Hong Kong. I have been teaching dance since over 3 decades. It's been my passion and my hobby put as business. And of course, it's I love what I do. And it's by the public demand that I started this back almost 34 years ago, I would say. And it's just been a journey, and I'm still continuing to teach, and I'm still doing more and creating and pursuing my career. And yeah, and I love it.
Exciting. And this episode is very special because Rani Asra is my aunt, my masi. She's my mom's sister. So let's get straight into it. First and foremost, let's go back in time just to learn a bit more about who you were before you became the person that you are today. So please tell us, when did your interest in dance begin?
Honestly, I always joke and say since the womb, but in all seriousness, dance has been part of my life for as long as I can remember. I was always moving, so it never felt like a hobby, and I would outgrow it. So it felt like part of who I was and who I am till today.
That's great. Now, when did you realize that you actually wanted to pursue a career as a choreographer?
Interestingly, I would say becoming a choreographer wasn't something I had planned from the beginning. Yes, I was always into dance and I was always into all these entertainment thing. But for me, at the time when I was working as an executive secretary, I kept hearing the same thing from people around me that you should start teaching Bollywood dance because, so and so, you're good at this and whatever. And over 35 years ago, Bollywood dance at that time classes simply didn't exist in Hong Kong. And there was a real demand for it. So, one day it just happened. I took the leap and I left my job, started my first dance class. I remember it was in April back to, let's just say, more than 3 decades ago. And I never looked back. So, what began as one class quickly grew into something much bigger than I ever imagined. I'm still doing what I love, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And I always believe that what comes our way is what's meant to be as well. So, until I can, I'm just doing teaching and yeah, I keep going.
100%. Do you remember your first lesson that you taught?
I remember my first dance class that I started professionally as a dance instructor, choreographer, teacher. I remember it was April 13th. It was a Thursday. And my first song that I taught was Mehbooba. Mehbooba, ah, Mehbooba, And that time it was like a remix which just started to come in back in those days. And I did that. That was my first song that I taught. And yeah, it went well. You know how it's like I just create and I choreograph and it was fun. After that, it started moving.
And what year was this specifically?
1992 when I started. So let's just say around that period, around that era at that time.
What was it like choreographing in the 90s? Because obviously, as you know, back then social media wasn't as big as it is today. So how did you get your clients?
Back in the 90s, honestly, I loved it. Why? Because I'm very old school. Okay. And it felt life was much simpler back then. There was no social media. So everything was based on word of mouth. People would hear about my classes from friends, family, so on. And I would get calls throughout the day, people wanting to join my classes. My attendance record were all handwritten. Okay. That was my log. Okay. Everything was done manually. Until today, I do that because I like everything to be written, whether it's my schedule, whether it's down to every detailed information about my students, about my classes, whatsoever. I still like to handwrite all of those, and because I believe, I'm from that era, and I'm still pursuing. Although technologies come to us right now, but I just still like to pursue what I used to do back then and do it now again. There were fewer distractions, fewer trends back then, and less pressure to create content. All right. Now people want to understand movement. And the movement, the technique, and performances, etc. So another thing I really miss is that the songs were much longer. We would often perform full 6-minute routines, and audience would just still ask for encores. So today, attention span is shorter. It's much shorter
100%.
because of social media and the viral content. But back then, people were happy to immerse, themselves in a full performance.
The year 2002 was obviously a very big year for you. Could you please tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, well, the year 2002 was one of the most special years of my life because I became a mother. And at that point, I had already been teaching dance for like 10 years back then. Okay. So I was ready 10 years into my career. And it was a very busy stage in, like I said, in my life and my career, because as I said, I was one of the only Bollywood dance teachers back in those times. And then, in fact, I continued teaching throughout my pregnancy. And I only stopped 1 week before my daughter was born. So professionally, it was also a memorable year because I was featured by the South China Morning Post. I remember back then it was like, wow, there's few things that are still there in my mind.
Vivid.
And
Yeah.
yeah, very vivid, very vivid. It was my first major newspaper interview, and one of the first times that my work as a choreographer was recognized publicly in that way. So 2002 was always will always hold a special place in my heart because it was a year that combined both my personal and professional milestones together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Your daughter, Rina, my first cousin, for those that are listening, was born on September 6th, 2002. So, what were the months before that date and the subsequent months? Because obviously, then you're a mother. How did you balance motherhood and your role as a choreographer?
As a mother and as a choreographer, I balanced it out. So when I gave birth, I just took like a month off, I would say, because the demand was there and people were waiting for me to get back into action. I had to somewhere because I didn't want to lose that, the essence, because I'm so always independent and always working that I was feeling that I needed to get back into my classes ASAP. I remember Rhina was like only 3 months, and I would put her in a baby carrier. I would carry her, one bag, her bag, my bag, and I would just take her through the hustle bustle of Hong Kong, how it's like, and go to the MTR. She would be so small, looking around, wondering what's happening with all the surroundings. And then I would continue. Back in those days, in all honesty, I taught from my parents' house. And I believe that that brought me a lot of good luck because it was amazing. So I would go there. Rana would be there. Of course, she was taken care of, and she was in front of my eyes, so I could even see her while I would be teaching as well. So I tried to level it out in such a way that my work would not interfere in my motherhood. Because first of all, being a mother, I felt so blessed and grateful because not to forget, Rina is actually my birthday gift from God. I always say that. And so, of course, I was a mother for the first time. So it was overwhelming juggling from being a mother to a dance teacher. But it was tough, but somehow I made it through. And I had all the support system, right? I had everyone's support with me so that I could pursue my career, my work as a full-time dance teacher, as well as a mother. And I honestly, truly loved doing both. So that's why I think when you put that love, yeah, in your work as well as in your family home front, it can be very successful. You can make it happen. I feel very grateful to that I was able to pursue and do what I love and to continue with my work.
Absolutely. And I think having a great support system means a lot. And I think it really determines the success. I'm actually very curious to ask you this now. Are you the type of person that puts other people before you, your own self?
Yeah, actually, yes. I'll tell you why, because I think since very young, I can't say no to people, or I will try my level best to do whatever I can. But even over the years in my career of dance teacher, choreographer, I remember juggling with so much pressure of work because, like I said, it was very much in demand. There had been times that I had broken down, no doubt about that. But I pulled myself up and I said, no, because if they want you, as in, if they want me to teach them or they want me to give them what they desire, and this is my journey, and whatever is coming my way, I should accept it, embrace it, and do it in such a way, try to handle it more in a calm, peaceful mind and make it work. So I was always the type, I think in my 3 decades of my dance career, I think there was only one time that I had to decline a project. I felt so bad about it. I felt so bad because I just don't like to turn anyone away. I feel whatever comes my way is God sent because I couldn't take it up. I was just over flooded. My plate was just so full that I couldn't take it. And I was feeling so bad that I had to decline one offer that came to me. But then somehow it took me a while. It took me some time to accept that it's okay. Sometimes we have to see how much we can take. And when you say you put people in front, yeah, in any way, even when it comes to friendship, when it comes to career or family, I try to do as much as I can to make everyone happy as long as they're satisfied. I like to put smile on everyone's faces. And yeah,
Yeah. The reason why I asked you that question is because seeing you just talk about your daughter, the passion, you made it seem very easy, the fact that you're able to balance motherhood and your role as a choreographer. So I thought, really, is it actually that easy? So I knew that knowing you, for throughout my life, that you're always that person that loves to give. You're always that person that wants to make sure that others are happy before you put your own self. And, I can relate to you in that way because we all just want other people around us to feel comfortable, to be happy. We're all about spreading positive and good vibes.
I think what kept me going, and as we're always learning, as you know, right? So I think positivity and spirituality, it got me going. And that's when you know how to, you have awareness. I like to keep my surroundings positive in a good way. So yeah, I mean, I think the more you give, the more you'll receive tenfold with abundance and all that. So just give what you can, share what you can, your skills, whatever, because you know what? You're going to gain eventually. What you give is what you get, also, right? In the world that we're living in, and I'm being very honest, we see a lot of things, okay? I mean, I'm much older, so I know, and I've seen a lot of changes with things, with situations, with people, with everything, okay? In career, family, whatever you say, how to maintain and how to keep calm in the hustle bustle of the environment that we're living in right now, right? If you keep that energy, again, like I said, if you keep that energy going, and thinking in your mind, okay, fine, it's good, and not to take things so deeply. Like in if something happens, for example, like we all in our lives go through phases, okay, and
We all do.
we all go through phases, sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's just how you handle the situation. And we're living in a stressful world. Don't forget, we've come from the era where even when things were really tough, yet people were very happy because life was simple. Going back to my time, my era, whatever it is, everybody had stress. I'm not saying nobody did. Everybody, even if they were making just like $100, for example, I'm giving, even if the salaries back in those days were like, say, a couple of $1,000s, but people were happy. Why? Because it was not as stressful. Why again? There was no technology, no social media back in
No
those days.
distractions.
Exactly. There was no distraction. So what we could do it nicely in a simple manner, simple way. Okay. So now it's a different ballgame. So that's what I'm saying. Like I said, we learn as we go on, as we get older, we get wiser. And I think for me, when I learned more and I've had more clarity, about everything, and self realization is when spirituality came into my life 15 years ago now. So, and I just believe, just do what you have to do, give, share, and gain.
I actually wanted to touch a bit more about your vulnerability, your vulnerable side, because you mentioned that you had a couple of breakdowns. You always even said just now that we're supposed to put on a brave face and, just life was simple back then. But you mentioned as well that you declined a project. Why did you decide to decline that project and do you regret it?
Okay, like I said, like I never like to say no to anyone, especially when it comes to work, because I feel when people come to you, there's a reason they come to you. Okay, it's because maybe something that I have given to the society, that I have given to the people, or it through dance, or through my personality, or through, maybe through my teachings, whatever I've done. Okay. I always try to take as much as I can. And I've actually, even my cup overflowed with it. Like I said. So when I declined that, it really, I had to really think like hard about it, because I could not take it up, because I couldn't, there was no time. Even if I try to make time to get this project, I know it was going to take a lot from what I was already doing. So I said, you know what, I had to, well, apologetically, sincerely decline that and say, okay, you know what, I just can't do it. And maybe down the road, down the future, something better will come from me from that project that I had declined. Something bigger may be coming my way. That's why that wasn't the right moment for me to accept it.
Did something better come after that?
Yeah, of course. Something always, sometimes, now I don't remember because it's just so much that I've been doing. But yeah, I try my level best to make, to do what I can and to make it up to it. And especially when it comes to my work, like my career. Like I said, it's been my passion. So if I an assignment that comes my way, or if something, even if I'm in the middle of a dance and a student wants to join my classes, I will accept. And if I have to give that student a little bit of an extra session, I will, so that they are, leveled up on to that page where they can be comfortable and they can be focused enough. And I think keeping a very comfortable environment is also an advantage, especially when I have my kids, when my young students, I give them so much love, and I give them so much
You have
love.
to.
Yes, because they know it. They like to come to my classes because I'm giving them something. And like I said, when you give, you gain, right? You gain 10 times more. So that's what it is. And anything that we do, give love. And I've learned that. Okay.
Love, not hate.
Spread love. Okay. Patience. Another thing that I have learned throughout my career of dance, I remember how I started becoming patient is when I had a young kids dance class. I'm going back time, back in the 90s. Okay. Maybe the early 2000, let's just say. Okay. So I had this bunch of young girls, and because of the demand, I had, like, I remember very clearly, about 25 kids in my one class. And I was running the dance classes from my parents' house. And I remember this so clearly. My God, the noise, because the kids, the girls were young. I was the first dance teacher to accept students at the age of 3 years old. All right. So you can imagine kids are so young at 3, and my age group, the range was between, it wasn't 3, it was from, I would say, 4 to 6 years old. Okay.
You
And
must have had a lot of tantrums.
25 kids, girls, in my class, in the living room, okay, throwing tantrums. You know how it's like children. They're playful, they're everything. To get their attention, it's very difficult because the attention span of young children is only about 30 minutes. So I know that, okay, 30 minutes. What you can teach them in 30 minutes is what they have, that they can grasp and they can concentrate and take over what you can teach them. Thereafter, that's it. Not only they need a change, they need to do whatever. So what I said, that's it. Okay. Because it became so much, it became over my head with the noise, with them not listening. And I don't like to shout at my students. That's one thing. I hardly think I have shouted at any of my students. No. Being strict is one thing. Yes, because you want to give them discipline and you want them to listen to what you're doing, because time is very important. And, we have only a time frame when I'm teaching as well. So I would like my students all to be attentive while I'm teaching them dance or choreography. So what it's like that when I had that, I came to a point that I said, okay, I am not going to take that age group. All right. Because I cannot handle it. I was very impatient. I got so frustrated that I said, that's it. Even I remember, to the extent that my mom had said, oh my God, she couldn't even handle it. All right, because it was so noisy. It was like a playground in a house. So my mom also came in. Instead of me yelling, she had to really shout at the kids, not shout in that way, and just say, stop. like kind of thing, like listen to Didi Rani. Okay. My mom would say that. And they would really listen to my mom and they would say, oh my God, because like what just happened, you know? So then I came to a point because I said, you know what? I can't do it. Of course, I was younger and I was at my peak as well. And I had so much going on with classes and everything that I even had a wait list of students, in all honesty. Okay. Back then. So going back to that time, I had to tell the moms that I'm going to stop this dance class because it's just too much for me and I couldn't take it. You won't believe, Manav, the moms literally requested me, no, please don't stop because this is something they wanted their kids to learn. And I said, okay. Then I came up with an idea that I split the class into two. And back in those days, let me tell you, children did not have too many classes. You ask the kids now, I think the kids' schedule are more tighter than our schedules. So it's so difficult to even get a class going at times because someone has different timings, what is suitable to them, what is not. This is one more thing. When you asked me about have I ever said no? So this was one class in my whole career that I wanted to say stop. Then, you know, we always come to a solution. Then I calmed down because I knew some of the moms when they called me and when they said to me, no, Rani, please don't, you know, we wanted that. You know, then I came back to my old self thinking, you know what? They want it. I got to do this for them. You know, I got to share my talent with the young ones. So then what I did was I split the class into two. And yeah,
It's also allowed you to focus on the kids specifically, you know, now it's
focus
like
on
you're giving the
kids.
attention.
You know, and back then also time because my classes were quite full and I was doing back to
I
back.
understand.
So that's what I do today. I take a certain amount of students because A, I want them to focus and then I can give that the attention, especially when they're young children. Because when they're young children, even the parents would prefer me to have a smaller class so I can work with all the kids individually or whatever I can do, teach them nicely, and so that they're more focused. Split the class into two, much more peaceful. Also, I started becoming more patient. I'm more patient now, you know, when I'm teaching or when I'm choreographing. I am very flexible. I will be like, okay, listen, I'm choreographing a dance. I want my students to shine. So when I want my students to shine, I will teach them to the brim that they get the step. Even one step can take you forever to teach a person with two left feet or who can't dance at all, who have no rhythm. But I have done it. I have done it all. I have taught all kinds of people. I've come across so many different personalities in life.
Please give some examples of that.
Oh, what shall I say? When I say different type of personalities, some can be very stingy, some can be like super cool. Some, it's just that, you know, when you're teaching, you're bonding and connecting with your students. Okay. So when you are connecting with your students, you also know their character. You will also know how their personality is like, right? And you'll be amazed that I'll tell you, I've had students and I've had people come to me, the richer they are, the more they'll ask you for discounts and they'll ask you for all that. This is what is happening. And then you'll be amazed. And I've even had where moms, so when I'm saying not the students, but the students' parents, for example, mothers, okay? In my 3 decades of dance career, there's been hardly any dispute, okay? Which I'm
That's
so
good.
grateful for because it's the way I am. I like harmony, whether it's family life, friendship, work. I think it's very important to be peaceful, which is very difficult now in this day and age. That's why we go into spirituality. That's why we surround ourselves with things that make our mind at peace, at least. When you are calm is when you can also deliver well.
Yeah, no, completely understand. I actually want to touch a bit more on your vulnerability and your spirituality side, because you mentioned earlier that you got into spirituality. Could you please tell us a bit more about that? But also, I'm very curious, you know, because you're my aunt, so I'm very curious to know a bit more about the challenging times in your career over the years, because you've taught, you know, for about 34, 35 years of dance. Did you consider quitting choreography at one point, for example?
Okay, I never thought of quitting. That's number one. Why? Because, like I said, it was my passion and my hobby. Yes, because I've been teaching from a very long time. Before I got to be a proper professional dance teacher, I was already choreographing for Diwali balls. Okay. So I was always choreographing. I choreographed from a very young age. All right. My first stage performance I remember was when I was only 5 years old. And I did a solo dance in a school, in a Chinese school. I remember so clearly. That was my ever first performance when I did a old Indian song, very, very popular from this movie called Bobby, the song called Jhoot Bole Ko Kate. So I was only 5, you can imagine. So that's why for me, quitting is never the thing. Okay? Don't quit. Winners don't quit.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
But
agree.
yes, there have been challenging moments, and I think we all go through that in life. Challenging, why? Because now we're living in a very competitive market. So there are going to be challenges. You know, you are going to have things coming your way that you have to tackle. So when you are faced with challenges, that's when you turn around, and somehow, when it's your time, spirituality comes into you. Okay. And for me, that's what happened. All right. I was always religious. Spirituality came to me and I embraced it. And honestly, when I got on that journey, on that path, it's just so good. You just keep getting better and better. You gain so much. You're always learning. Spirituality teaches you, awareness. Okay. You become more aware of situations, you become more aware of surroundings, clarity is another thing I would say. Okay. There's a lot of things that now you see clearly. Okay. Self realization, I would say. Okay. Is another thing, these 3 points: awareness, clarity, self realization. You realize a lot of things about yourself, and then you feel okay, and then you change for the betterment. Now I've also implemented some spirituality into my dance because I feel it's therapeutic. We need that in this day and age that we're living in.
One of the questions I was going to ask you is how do you, use dance therapeutically? Because does it come from a place of childhood, for example? Like, what was your childhood, for example, growing up?
When how we grew up, we never had mobile phones, nothing. We just had the old fashioned phones and we used to go to school. We had a routine, okay? Like I said, we were living a simple world. So our routine was like, okay, coming home from school, our moms we used to have our TV was only watching Sesame Street, Muppet Show, The Addams Family. We used to come back, okay, do our homework. We would have a glass of milk, blah, 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 watch a little bit of TV, go to the garden. That was our day. That was our youth, was playing in the garden with our friends,
Sounds wonderful.
nature, and it was so good. It was so real. It was very authentic back then. We used to play our cops and robbers. We used to do all these playful things because we had a childhood, I would say. There was no gadget. We didn't have all these things with us. We lived in a pure natural environment. And then after that, okay, time to go home. We all used to be home before our dads used to come home. That was the whole norm, like that back in those days, okay? And we used to have that fear of our parents also. Nowadays, where is the fear? The exposure was different back then. We've also had ups and downs in our childhood, but it was more simple. Even friendship was more genuine. Everything was cool. You know what I mean? Back then,
Is that why your choreography experience, throughout the years, it's been very like, oh, I'm putting others before me because you had such a great childhood? Or is it because also the safety of where you grew up in Hong Kong? For example, nowadays or in our generation, we're very exposed to talking about how we feel. You made a comment that was very interesting, how you don't mask yourself. You don't mask how you feel. If you are having a bad day, how do you communicate that when you're performing? Because I can imagine for your generation, it must have been difficult to hear from us growing up as well that we might feel sad or, we might not feel a certain way. We go through hardships. We all do. How does that influence your choreography? Of course, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, yeah, my daughter's fine, or, everyone in my family's fine. How do you go to choreography knowing that people go through hard times in life? Because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
let me tell you one thing. When you say behind closed doors, I think that's why you're my nephew because I always say that. Behind closed doors, nobody knows what's going on. Okay?
No
You
one.
get out there and put a front, put a mask, and show the public that you're happy, which is a good thing also because nowadays, being happy also, happiness is also a task. If I'm having a bad day or whatsoever, you need to switch off and then switch on. Why? And I've learned this. Okay? Because I am always stressed about something. No matter how good even things can be, but there's always something that we're stressed about. And I think that's That's very normal and that's very general. So, I mean, it's a very general thing. So, what happens is that sometimes, like I said, spirituality has helped me a lot because if my old version, I would probably be like, oh my God, panic mode, this, that. I'm not like I don't panic now, but I take it more easily. Like, you know what? If I'm panicked about something or something like that, I'll calm down. And then remember your higher self, your supreme. Okay. Then put yourself in that surrounding that, okay, everything is good, all is well. Bring out that positive side and say, okay, no, everything is good. Whatever has to happen will happen. And that's it. We move on. And in all honesty, when I'm stressed out and anything comes back, so when I go to my work, which like say today I have my workshop, okay, I'm already working like me. My mind is always running with thoughts. My mind is always working. If I'm working off my steps, my dance moves, even when I'm on my way to going from home to a class to a session, I'm listening to my music, but I'm dancing inside my mind. I'm working steps, you know? I'm choreography. And when I come to my class, that's why I have like 10,000 steps in my mind because it's always there. I'm having all these, imagination and that's what I like to do also, visualize. Okay? Dance is my escape room. It's my stress buster. Okay. I let it out. I listen to music. I dance because I believe that's one thing where I can calm myself down because I am that type of a person that I like to deal things on my own. I'm very independent. Okay. We all have emotions. So do I. And I've gone through all of them. Okay. And we go through it as we grow. I'm the type for me to trust somebody if I have to share something takes a lot of courage. Why? Because I don't like to tell people anything about what I am going through because there could
Yeah.
be times when there's a tough situation. Say, for example, I've dealt with an assignment or a project or a student something that goes on, a parent or work or something like that. Yes, I'm sure over these years that I have done in my dance career, I have encountered these kind of moments. But somewhere, somehow, it has been challenging. I do stress so much about it that it just takes the strength out of me at times. Okay. But then to overcome it, what I like to do is I like to switch off and be in my zone, in my moment where, yes, I like to watch my K dramas. That for some time my mind is diverted. I like to be as well with my family because at least we are in that surrounding of love and warmth. Okay. My mom, she's like my best friend as well as like my daughter because if I want to share anything, I have them to talk to. And being the older child, the elder one, I have to face a lot of things. And not only forgetting that even the challenging period in my life was when I was dating my husband back in those days. It was a very, very difficult time back in those days. Why? Because, like I said, parents were conservative. It was a different lifestyle, different mindset and stuff. You know what I mean? I think you kids have a lot of pressure these days because you have a lot of exposure, exposed to a lot of social media where there's so much out there that I think the youth is grasping, which is good and bad. Okay. Why? Because, so say, for example, Raina, my daughter, when she comes to me with something and she talks to me about a certain issue that if she has, and she's talking to me about like how nowadays that kids have anxiety, that got to me. I was like, what? I would not believe it.
Mm.
And this is in all honesty, if I'm being so honest, because to hear the word anxiety from children this day and age is like, what? Wow, how? You are getting everything on the platter. Do you know what I mean?
But I'll say one thing. I mean, it also could be a case of where you grow up in Hong Kong, you're being taught or, this environment, it's so safe, but is it really safe? I have anxiety, and I'm sure a lot of people in Hong Kong do or around the world, but they're just not gonna mention it.
You know
I do
why?
podcasting.
You do podcasting, you're doing what you do, considering that the parents nowadays, these days, are giving everything to their children. But the reason why there's still peer pressure from you kids is because of society that you are living in. Okay.
100%.
Number one is society. Number second thing I would say is competitive. Okay. Competitive out there. Everyone is trying to be better than the other one. Okay. And when I go back to when I say layer of masks coming in, This is what it is because people are wearing layer of mask, whether you're young or you're old. And why this is happening is because we're living now in a fake world compared to
Yeah.
what we were before.
I actually want to quickly ask you this because you brought up something that was very interesting about you masking, yourself, and obviously when you have Rhina or other distractions that might affect you how you choreograph. Does this have something to do with your reputation as a choreographer? You feel like I can't show how I feel, I can't express my emotions or be vulnerable because I have a job to do. I have to teach. I am teaching and communicating with people from as young as, 5 to older. Is that why probably in your mind it's my reputation? Is that why in your mind you're like, I have to deliver and I can't have mental health or masking my emotions have anything to do with it?
You are correct. Actually, what you said last, yes. For me, image is very important. Okay. Because not only being a well known, recognized figure in the society, I think that when I am teaching, I need to be 101% present there mentally. Okay. Yes, I have a lot of things going on in my mind, like we all do. Okay. I will not believe if anyone says they don't have any stress, not even one. I'm sorry, I will not believe that because everyone has something or the other, whether it's health, whether it's wealth, whether it's work, whether it's children, etc., etc. Okay. So, like, when I said you switch on, you switch off, I, I learned that because when I'm in my dance, I have to be completely focused at what I do. So I maintain that kind of, I have to be resilient. I have to be very, very composed.
You have a job to do.
Yes, because like you said, I have to deliver. I deliver, my students receive, right? So when I do that, so for that couple of hours, I have to be in that mode that I have to be. I'm a teacher, I'm regardless, whatever it is, a choreographer, instructor, teacher, and I have to work. I have to work. And with that mindset, I have to make sure that everything is on a right track. You see? So what happens is also when it's not like that I will not go back to that issue or that situation to solve it. I will. Okay. Well, that moment is on hold because I got to do what I have to do. Right. So then I go back, and then again, you have to switch. It's just the way you handle a situation. And, like when you say anxiety, I want to go back to that. So, why is it that the youth of today, even after having everything that they're provided with, they still have anxiety? They still go through a lot of pressure because like I said, you are exposed to things. Some of the things are not even real. Back in our times, for us, it was more genuine. Where would anxiety word come back in those days? So when I had to hear it from my daughter that children nowadays have anxiety, I'm like, I was shocked. I'm like, really? I couldn't adapt to that. That why? And then she had to make me understand that the world we lived in is different to what is happening now. Generation differences, definitely. Okay. Because, like I said, social media came into 2000s in that era, like 2000 something, whatever, right? There's a lot out there where you can gain, you can learn as well. And then also that pressure of, oh, I need to do this because I have to be better than this. There's a lot that we have to face in life. That's why challenges come to us because, like God always says, that he only gives these challenges to his strong soldiers because you
Take
can,
it.
yes, because you can take it and he knows that you will make it work. You will somehow do it in your way. You will add your magic to this, to whatever matter, whatever situation is this, and then you will just get it out there. It's all about how we, again, portray and solve a situation, no matter from which angle it comes from, whether it's a career, family, friends. It's not easy. Nothing is easy. Nothing is easy for you. So that's why when I say when the children, I feel it was easy for them for this time because, they're getting everything that they want.
That's what the parents think.
And I think also is because you kids are allowed to pursue your education abroad. We never did. We were never allowed. Okay. So I think that also makes a difference because once you are out, you have gone abroad, it's a different exposure. So you have your freedom. And when you have your freedom, you are already matured about it because you can do everything independently. You know you can do this. And when you come back and when you are told you can't do this, you're like, but why? I've already done something. We could not sit and talk to our parents like this. I remember both my sis, as in your mom, we had sat down in front of our dad when we hit 20, 19, 20 years old of our age to be allowed to talk to him to let us start going out at nights back in those days. Okay. We had a curfew. Oh, okay. You want to do this? You gotta be back. Not allowed to do this, not allowed to do that. Today, the parents are giving that permission to the children. The freedom. The thing is that now, why you see kids as young as 12, 13-year olds out and about.
That's something else. Yeah.
So there's always pressure. There's always going to be anxiety somewhere. There's always going to be stress. There's always going to be something or the other. One just needs to know how to handle it.
I'm glad to hear that, you now have that awareness and understanding of, the fact that kids in our generation and kids nowadays, they have the right to express how they feel, even if they have to mask it. It's the whole comparison being a thief. It's the fact that we should be focusing on our own journey. We've talked a lot about, your vulnerability and your, just the life lessons that you've learned as a choreographer. But I want to now touch a bit more about what's been like a career highlight for you.
Okay, so what's been my career highlight? Wow, I think there have been many wonderful moments throughout my career, but two stand out immediately that I remember. Okay, the first was my original choreography for the song Mukabla, which I created almost 30 years ago. Back then, I choreographed a full 6-minute number version of the song, no remix. It was no shortcuts. It became incredibly popular, and the audience would regularly ask for encores. Okay. So that was one where I had to do an encore dance with me in it because they thought it was like they wanted to see me dance. The other one, and of course, years later during COVID, I reunited with 4 other choreographers, some of whom I had actually taught as children to create Mukabla Reload. It took nearly 2 years to complete because of the pandemic. But seeing that project come to life was incredibly meaningful because it felt like bringing a piece of my history into a new generation. The second highlight was a performance I choreographed for the progressive Diwali ball many years ago. It was a set to a song, Apache Indian. I don't even know if you know who Apache Indian is. And I remember introducing, yeah, so he was very famous back then. And one of his songs, Chuck There, I remembered introducing hip hop influences into a Bollywood routine, which was quite different at that time. Okay. So I experimented with formations and staging in ways that I hadn't done before. And the audience loved it so much that they demanded an encore. Okay. So the funny part is that I wasn't supposed to perform because I was directing. I choreographed. I was choreographed the whole show. So I was directing from the sidelines. So I didn't even have a costume. Okay. But I ended up borrowing one of my dancer's outfits and running back onto the stage. And as I walked into the ballroom, the audience started chanting my name, Rani, Rani, Rani. I was like, wow, that feeling, that love that was given to me and that chant is like sketched into my mind. It was such an overwhelming feeling of appreciation and recognition. Okay. So it reminded me why I love what I do. But honestly, beyond any specific performance, my greatest achievement is the impact I've had on people. Even today, when I walk around Hong Kong, people stop me and share memories of my classes. And they tell me, Didi Rani or Auntie Rani, do you still do that warm up of Enigma? And I'm like, yes, it's one of my signature, move start to my classes. And then sometimes they even recognize my daughter and they say, you're Rani's daughter. So those moments remind me that I've left a meaningful mark on this community. And that's something I'm incredibly grateful for.
When I did your class as well, the last thing you'd always do was
Yeah,
class is dismissed.
that's
Do you still do that?
yeah, I still do that. Yes, I still do it.
Wow, even 20 years, 25 years later, you still do it.
I do it.
Wow.
I still use my Enigma and I still do all this because this is my signature and why not? And I have to keep it going,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. Across the 3 decades you've choreographed, what's been your favorite decade to choreograph?
So, okay. So I see the 2010s as the bridge between the old world and the new world. This was the period when technology and social media were becoming part of everyday's life. So everyone was slowly adapting to these changes. And then came the 2020s, where everything became digital. Okay. Choreography is now shared globally within seconds. A dance trend can go viral overnight and people can learn routines from anywhere in the world. As a choreographer, I've had to evolve along these changes while I still value traditional teaching methods. I've also embraced new platforms, new music styles, and new ways of connecting with students. I think that's one of the reasons I've been able to stay in this industry for so long. I've remained open to learning while staying true to my roots.
Out of the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s so far, what's been your favorite decade to choreograph?
I think I would say 2000s or in the
Really?
90s.
I thought the 90s.
90s, yeah, 90s, 2000s. It was good. It was fun. It was so vibrant. I feel it was like people actually came to me to learn dance, to learn movement. That was great back then because everything was so genuine. I think the music back then was even much better
I agree.
or
I
original.
agree.
So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
that era was really good.
Your daughter Ryan was born, and also the decade I started,
Yeah,
and I joined you
exactly.
along with my brother and sister as well. What a time! And I also would love to thank you because of you as well. I've grown up listening to a lot of Bollywood music from the 2000s. Back in university, me and Ryan out on nights out, or as we were part of the Asian society, we would always pick our, Bollywood songs to play, and a lot of the times we'd be because of your dance classes, we would do some of the steps. So you might not know this actually, but
Ah,
it,
great.
yeah, it's very nostalgic. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. And like I said, it's all God's grace and the support of the people and the surroundings that I have. Thank you.
We have two more questions left. The second last question is for those who are, want to follow their passions or interests, whether that's choreography, music, or something that makes them happy. You clearly, showed the interest you had with dancing from a very young age. And still to this day and age, you're still, following your passion, doing what you love. What would you say to people who want to follow their passions?
I will just say to them, be the best version of yourself and not a copy of someone else. Okay. One word I will always use in my classes is oomph. All right. So whatever you do, bring your own oomph to it. Bring your personality, your creativity, your energy, and your perspective. Don't spend your life chasing trends or trying to be someone else. Create your own style. And that's why I always say I may be old school, but I truly believe that originality is what makes people memorable because I say I'm original too, right? And I feel follow what excites you, keep learning, keep creating, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Really good piece of advice. Now, the last question I have for you is what are you up to nowadays?
Okay, so wow, what I'm up to nowadays is that these days I'm focusing a lot on my danceology workshops and my dance along with Rani G, which I have implemented into my dance series now I'm going to say. So I'm always trying to upgrade myself. Okay, I try to be more creative. What can I implement into my classes? What can I do more? You know, more attractive. So interestingly, my dance along came about because many of my students told me they didn't necessarily want to learn choreography anymore. So sometimes I simply just wanted to dance, move, let go, and enjoy themselves. So I've created a space where people could do exactly that. You know, it's been incredibly successful because people are looking for ways to de-stress, reconnect with themselves, and simply have fun. And I think dance can be therapeutic. And as someone who values mindfulness and spirituality, I love creating experiences that can help people feel good both physically and mentally. And then alongside that, I continue to choreograph for weddings, events, schools, corporate functions, private performances, etc., etc. My dance classes are ongoing and everything. One particularly special moment recently was teaching at my daughter's former primary school during Diwali, just last Diwali, and having her assist me. Okay. So it felt like such a full circle moment for both of us because after 35 years, I'm still teaching, still learning, still creating, and most importantly, still loving every minute of it. And I'm also introducing a new project that I have for myself, which is called Dance on the Spectrum, because I believe dance and music is a way through to everyone's heart.
Really, really, very exciting to hear. Really, really nice as well. And look forward to hearing more about the special project that you're working on,
Thank you.
whether that's in person or online. And I'm sure it'll be great. Well, thank you so much, Rani Asra, for joining me here today. For those who like to get in touch just to learn more about you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
They can always contact me through Instagram, through any social media platforms, and I'm always there to help and assist if they want to get in touch with me for any functions, projects, or classes, etc., etc. I'm just a phone call away.
Great. We'll leave your details in the link below so people can check them out. And for those watching, make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you so much, Rani Asra, for joining me here today. And we'll see you hopefully soon in Hong Kong.
Yeah, thank you. Much love to you and to everyone else.